Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to be looking ahead, exploring the future of higher education.
Okay.
You've shared some really intriguing research with us.
Yeah.
It's a chapter from an academic book by a Polish expert
Mm-hmm.
on global higher education systems.
Right.
And it really gets you thinking about the potential shifts ahead for universities, academics, and even your own degree, over the next few decades.
Yeah, and it's fascinating how this research isn't just theoretical.
Right.
It's grounded in, data from organizations like the OECD and Elsevier.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking at publications, funding global rankings, all of that.
Wow.
To try to paint a picture of where things are headed.
So the first thing that really jumped out at me was this idea of high participation systems.
Yes.
HPS.
HPS.
Can you break that down for us?
Absolutely. HPS refers to a scenario where a huge percentage of a generation, we're talking 60 to 90%, attends university.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. It's driven by a couple of powerful forces. First, parents naturally want better opportunities for their children.
Of course.
And second, the job market increasingly demands a degree as a basic entry requirement.
So it's almost like everyone's scrambling for that golden ticket.
Exactly. But here's where it gets a little bit tricky.
Okay.
More graduates don't necessarily translate into better jobs for everyone.
Right.
The expert uses this idea of positional goods to explain this.
Interesting.
Think of it like a limited edition sports car.
Okay.
Its value comes from its scarcity.
Right.
If suddenly everyone had one, it wouldn't be as special or desirable.
I see.
So the same principle applies to degrees. If everyone has one, the relative advantage decreases, especially if the skills learned aren't evolving alongside the demands of the job market.
That's a really interesting analogy.
Yeah.
So even if everyone's getting a degree, it doesn't guarantee success in the job market.
Right.
It's almost like the value of a degree gets diluted if the education system isn't keeping pace with the skills needed in the real world.
Precisely. And this leads us to another significant point raised by the expert, the increasing separation between research and teaching in higher education.
Oh, interesting.
They're predicting that higher education will become more stratified, resulting in what they call a two-tier system.
So a system where some universities are focused on research and others are focused on teaching.
Yes, and the research suggests that a small elite, about 1,000 global universities, which is roughly 3 to 5% of the total, will dominate the research landscape. These will become the powerhouses of knowledge creation.
So they'll be the ones making all the new discoveries and publishing all the papers.
Exactly. The research highlights some pretty striking statistics to support this.
Like what?
Did you know that Harvard University alone publishes more research than entire countries?
Wow. That's incredible. It really highlights the concentration of resources at these top institutions.
It certainly does. And when you look at the global university rankings, the top 10 countries account for a staggering 83% of the top-ranked universities worldwide. So this concentration of prestige and resources in a select few institutions is a key trend that the expert emphasizes.
So we have this emerging super league of research universities.
Yeah.
What does life look like within those institutions?
Yeah.
And even more importantly, what does this stratification mean for everyone else, for students and academics at institutions that are not part of this elite group?
Life at the top is a mix of exciting and challenging.
Okay.
Imagine a highly competitive environment where the brightest minds from around the globe are vying for resources and recognition.
Right.
These universities attract top talent, secure the largest research grants, and are often at the forefront of global collaborations that have a significant impact on various fields.
It sounds intense, to say the least.
It is. And the research doesn't shy away from highlighting potential downsides.
Such as?
We're talking about intense pressure to publish, potentially cutthroat competition, and even the possible exploitation of postdocs and junior faculty who are trying to climb the academic ladder within these institutions.
So there's a human cost to this pursuit of academic excellence. It's not just about groundbreaking research. It's also about the individuals working within these systems.
Exactly. And this is where it all connects back to you, the listener. Even if you're not pursuing a research career, this concentration of resources at the top has implications for the value of your degree and the future job market as a whole.
That's a great point. If research is driving prestige and prestige is driving funding, what happens to the institutions that are primarily focused on teaching? Do they get left behind in this evolving landscape?
That's a critical question.
Yeah.
And the research suggests that teaching-focused institutions might need to adapt
Okay.
to this changing reality.
What kind of adaptations are we talking about?
The expert envisions these institutions potentially shifting their focus toward more vocational skills and catering to the needs of their local job markets.
So thinking about like very specific local needs.
Yes. Think about programs that equip students with practical hands-on skills that directly translate into employment opportunities in their local communities.
So more practical hands-on approach to education as opposed to purely theoretical knowledge?
Precisely. But this shift comes with potential trade-offs.
Okay.
The research suggests that faculty at these institutions might face lower pay, more part-time or contract positions, and perhaps less job security overall. It's a different academic landscape than the one we've traditionally seen.
It makes you wonder, with everyone going to university but research concentrated in a select few, does a degree become more like a high school diploma?
Right.
Necessary, but not necessarily a guarantee of success.
That's a really insightful question. And it gets to the heart of what the expert is trying to explore. If the higher education system is becoming stratified, it begs the question, what does this mean for academics themselves?
So you're talking about the professors and researchers who work at these different types of institutions.
Exactly.
Are their experiences likely to be significantly different?
The research certainly suggests so. The expert argues that the experience of being an academic in the future could vary drastically depending on where you are in this academic hierarchy.
So not all academic jobs will be created equal.
That's a key takeaway from the research. For academics working within those top 1,000 research-intensive universities, things might not change drastically. They will likely continue to enjoy competitive salaries, job security, and access to the resources needed to pursue cutting-edge research.
So they're still going to be at the top of the food chain?
Yes. But for those outside of this elite group, the future looks a bit more uncertain.
It sounds like there could be some significant challenges for academics at teaching-focused institutions.
Yes, that's a point the expert emphasizes. The research suggests that the vast majority of academic work in the future will involve teaching large numbers of students, potentially with heavier workloads, and a curriculum that's much more closely aligned with the immediate needs of the local job market.
So much more focused on practical skills.
Exactly. We might see a trend towards shorter-term contracts and less job security, especially outside those top-tier research institutions.
It's almost as though the classic image of a tenured professor pursuing their research passion with a stable lifelong appointment might become a thing of the past.
That's a possibility the expert raises. They even draw a parallel to the gig economy. Where instead of stable full-time positions with benefits, more academics might find themselves moving from one short-term contract to the next, facing uncertainty and instability. And this potential casualization of academic labor could have ripple effects throughout the entire higher education system.
It makes you think about the long-term consequences. If teaching positions are becoming less secure and less prestigious, will that further decrease the perceived value of a degree in the eyes of students and employers? Could we see a sort of feedback loop where the stratification of higher education further erodes the value of a degree for everyone outside of that elite research track?
That's a really important point to consider. The research doesn't shy away from these tough questions. The expert is prompting us to think about the future of higher education as a public good. How do we ensure that higher education remains accessible and valuable for everyone? Not just the privileged few who can attend those top research institutions or secure those increasingly rare tenured positions.
So it's not just about rankings and research output. It's about the social and economic implications of these global shifts in higher education. It's about who has access to knowledge, who benefits from it, and ultimately what kind of future we're creating for ourselves and future generations.
Absolutely. And this brings us to the experts' concluding thoughts. While they don't prescribe any specific policies, they do challenge individuals and institutions and governments to take an active role in shaping the future of higher education.
So to be aware of these trends and to make conscious choices.
They urge us to consider the potential consequences of this stratification and work to ensure it doesn't exacerbate existing inequalities.
So it's a call to action.
It is.
A challenge to engage with these issues and think critically about the kind of higher education system we want to see in the future.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we have agency. We're not just passive observers.
Right.
We can ask critical questions, challenge assumptions, and advocate for a system that's equitable, accessible, and valuable for everyone.
This deep dive has been eye-opening. It's clear that the future of higher education is complex, and there are a lot of factors at play. But before we wrap up, let's take a moment to recap the key takeaways for our listeners.
The research paints a picture of a future where participation in higher education will likely continue to rise globally, but with a growing divide between those elite research institutions and everyone else.
And this stratification has the potential to impact everything, from the academic profession and the value of a degree, to the very nature of knowledge creation and how that knowledge is shared.
It's a future full of possibilities and challenges, and the choices we make today will shape the higher education landscape of tomorrow.
That's an important reminder. We've established the key trends and the potential consequences. But what can individuals, institutions, and even governments do to ensure a more equitable and accessible system of higher education?
That's the million-dollar question. And unfortunately, there are no easy answers. The research doesn't offer a prescriptive roadmap, but it does give us some thought-provoking questions to consider. I think that's the real value of this deep dive. It's not about finding simple solutions. It's about encouraging critical thinking and prompting us to engage with the complexity of these issues.
I love that. It's like we've been given a new set of lenses through which to examine the future of higher education.
Precisely. These lenses allow us to see both the potential pitfalls and the possibilities that lie ahead. And by engaging in these conversations and asking tough questions, we can start to envision and create a higher education system that serves everyone, not just a select few.
Okay, so we've talked about this potential stratification of higher education, with research concentrated at the top and a greater emphasis on vocational skills at other institutions. But I'm still a little stuck on this positional goods concept we discussed earlier. If a degree becomes more commonplace, does that inherently diminish the value of higher education as a whole?
It's certainly a paradox. It's like everyone's trying to stand on their tiptoes at the same time and no one gets a better view.
Exactly.
The expert argues that simply pushing more and more people through the system isn't enough. We need to be thinking about quality, not just quantity.
So what does a quality education look like in this future, where higher ed is becoming increasingly stratified? What should students be focusing on if they want to stand out?
That's the question, isn't it? There's no single answer, but the research does suggest a few potential avenues. We may see a shift away from purely academic theoretical learning toward curricula that incorporate more practical skills and hands-on experience. Think about programs that equip students with specific knowledge and skills that employers are actively seeking. We may also see closer ties between universities and local industries, ensuring that graduates are well prepared for the specific job opportunities in their communities.
So there's a greater emphasis on being able to actually do something, not just knowing about it.
Exactly. And this could lead to a more diverse and dynamic higher education landscape. Different types of institutions serving different needs and purposes.
One of the potential downsides we discussed earlier was the pressure to publish at those elite research universities. Could this focus on research output lead to a decline in the quality of research itself? Could it create a system where researchers are incentivized to churn out publications rather than focusing on truly groundbreaking work?
It's a valid concern. The expert argues that we need to think critically about the metrics we use to evaluate research and academic success. If publications and citations become the sole measure of value, we risk stifling creativity and innovation.
Because people are just chasing numbers.
Exactly. Researchers might shy away from tackling complex long-term problems that might not yield immediate publishable results, and that could have a ripple effect on the entire knowledge creation process.
It sounds like we need to rethink our approach to academic work altogether, both research and teaching. We need to find ways to value and support a diversity of contributions, not just those that fit neatly into existing metrics.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. The research doesn't offer specific solutions, but it challenges us to imagine a different kind of higher education system. What if we valued teaching as highly as research? What if we prioritize collaboration and knowledge sharing over competition? What if we focused on cultivating critical thinking and problem-solving skills rather than just rote memorization?
This has been an incredible deep dive. It's given me a lot to consider about the future of higher education and my own role in shaping that future. Is there one key takeaway you want to leave our listeners with today?
For me, it's this higher education isn't static. It's constantly evolving, responding to social, economic, and technological forces.
Right.
And we all have a role to play in shaping that evolution. Whether you're a student, an academic, a policymaker, or simply someone who cares about the future of knowledge and learning, you have a voice. Ask tough questions.
Yeah.
Challenge assumptions and advocate for a system that's equitable, accessible, and valuable for everyone.
That's a fantastic note to end on. A huge thank you to you for sharing your insights with us today, and to our listeners for joining us on this deep dive into the future of higher education. We'll be back next week with another thought-provoking exploration.
Until then, keep those minds curious.